there, my name is Hydo and welcome to the Pantheon where we're taking on something close to my heart. It's the Bullies. Wait, no, if the Bullies are close to my heart, does that mean I'm Bully? I don't. Well, my style of magic is pretty miserable, so maybe I am. But let's have a look at the Beamtown Bullies. 4 mana for a 4/4 Vigilance Haste. Tap target opponent whose turn it is puts target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under their control. It gains haste, goad it, and at the beginning of the next end step, exile it. That's a lot to talk about. There's a lot in that ability. But the main thing that you need to know is you're going to be reanimating things onto your opponent's side of the board. So you can either really help them, because it's goaded, they're going to be attacking with it, it's got haste, or you can really mess with them. There's some horrible things that you could give to your opponents. And this is a cool card. Really cool. And then it's an Ogre Devil Warrior. So there's a lot going on. And straight away you can use that ability because it's got haste. And this deck could very much be built as a very mean combo deck. And we're going to talk a bit about that, but I want to show a couple of other different ways that you can utilize that ability. But first, please subscribe to my channel so I can show you many other things that you can do in the world of magic. So come and join me on the journey. Which brings me on to my first pick here. And at number 5, we've got Royal Assassin. Now, when I started playing Magic, I thought this card was unbeatable. What do? Your creatures have to tap to attack, dear God. And this taps to destroy target attack creature. I can't even get damage through. But then you learn about things like kill spells, and everything's good. But 3 mana for a 1/1 to tap, destroy target tapped creature. The interesting thing about the Beamtown Bullies ability is it only exiles at the beginning of the next end step. If the creature you've brought back for your opponent dies during their turn, it just goes back to your graveyard, so you can use it once more. So the idea here with Royal Assassin is that we can use this to tap and destroy the creature on our opponent's side. But more than that, we could just use it on anything that we're sort of scared of. If our opponents are looking a bit threatening, we can tap and destroy their commander, something like that. But main use is to sort of help get our creatures back into the graveyard so we can use them on a different opponent. Similarly, there's Despotic Scepter. Despot is one of my favourite words. It just sounds so stupid. Such a British word. Oh, it's a despot. I love it. 1 mana for an artifact. Tap to destroy target permanent you own. It can't be regenerated. So remember, the cards that we're putting onto our opponent's side, we don't control them, but we do own them. So we can use this to destroy our own creatures, get them back into the graveyard. Or if you're just sort of sadistic, you can blow up your own lands. Something like that. And they can't be regenerated. Incredible for if you're sort of self-flagellating yourself. Really awesome card and very specific to this deck. Then we've got Viscera the Dreadful. This is a legendary creature, so we can't give it to our opponent, but it just works too well not to include. 6 mana for a Gorgon flying. Tap, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. It doesn't even have to be tapped. This can just police the board fantastically. Really put your opponents on a sort of tricky situation. Do you want to cast that commander? Because I'll just tap and destroy it. Do you want to cast it? Do you want to cast it? Do you? And they probably say, no, I'm going to play with someone else over there. Chill. But this is a great card to include. Then, Keeper of the Dead is a similar card, but worse in every conceivable manner. 2 mana for a Summon Wizard, 1/2. Pay a black and tap. Destroy target non-black creature. Play this ability only if that creature's controller has at least 2 fewer creature cards in his or her graveyard than you have in yours. Okay, not the best card, but we're going to be filling our graveyard up with creatures, so we should, hit that sort of threshold, I guess. Oh, threshold, there you go. There's a mechanic, 7 cards in graveyard. But this is great, and very specific. And guess what? It's cheap. So you can afford it. But it works really well. And because it's not a legendary, we could technically give it to our opponent and it's destroy target non-black creature. So this can't destroy our own commander if we give it to an opponent for whatever reason. Really, really awesome card. It's not awesome, is it? But it fits into the sort of destruction sort of section I've got going on here. Which takes me on to number 4. And at number 4, I've got Shriekmaw. And this section's about things that we can get into the graveyard easily and we get a nice effect, but then we can give it to our opponent. And just as I was talking about here, Shriekmaw comes in and destroys target non-artifact, non-black creature. So this can't be used to blow up our own commander. So we happily give this to one of our opponents, then can swing in for fear. And the way we get into a graveyard is the evoke ability. So you cast this spell for 2 mana instead of the 5, and you sacrifice it straight away. So it goes into the graveyard, then the bullies can bring it back, give them a Shriekmawing. Really, really great card, and it's one of my favourites. It works fantastically well. Then we've got Foundation Breaker, another evoke card. 4 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this is a bit harder to use, and you sort of have to make a deal with your friends. You know, you say, oh, okay, he's got an Earthcraft over there. I'll give you this. Please don't touch my stuff. But it can work fantastic well, and you know, it's just good. 2 mana on our end to eat a Terry Chocolate Orange and blow up an artifact or enchantment. Really nice. And then we can use it later in the game to help our opponents. Then we've got Graph Reaver. Exploit, really cool mechanic. 2 mana for a 3/3. Exploits when this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. So you can make a deal. Sorry, I'm eating. I can't deny the chocolate. When it comes in, it can sacrifice itself. So you can make a deal with your opponent, say, look, sacrifice itself so that you get the effect. We're friends. When it enters, exploits a creature, destroy target planeswalker. So if we've got some planeswalkers that our opponents are really messing around with, a Super Friends style deck, this can be used by us, and then maybe we can give it to our opponent to help sort of mitigate the disaster that's going on. At the beginning of your upkeep, it deals 1 damage to you. Who cares? Hopefully it's not on the field. Hopefully they exploit it. Really nice card. Then Zinget Chewer on the evoke train again. When it's a battlefield, destroy target artifact. Kaboom! The Sol Ring's gone. But evoke is 1 red for us. 5 mana, 3/3. Not great, but we can give it to our opponents so they blow up another artifact. And hopefully you can manipulate them to not blow up yours. Then on a similar sort of idea, I love this style of effect. Dire Strain? Rampage? Yes, yeah, I can read. 3 mana for a sorcery. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. If a land is destroyed this way, its controller may search their library for up to 2 basic land cards, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Otherwise, its controller may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. This sort of card I love because there's so many different uses for it. We can blow up our opponent's stuff, give them a basic land, who really cares? The big threat is that massive enchantment they have. But what you could do is blow up your own stuff. You blow up your own land, okay, we've lost a land, but we get 2 more, so it's technically a ramp spell, and we can flash it back for 5 mana. But I like this sort of thing. It's sort of, you can mitigate the sort of anger that your opponents are going to have. Okay, I've blown up your 8 mana enchantment, but here's a basic forest. Hey! So it's a really cool card to use and fits well in the sort of theme of the deck. Then there's Crypt Champion, something that's quite interesting, I feel, and I like this card. So 4 mana for a 2/2 with double strike. Ooh. And when it comes into play, each player puts a creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from his or her graveyard into play. So that's really nice because everyone's going to benefit from it. Maybe you can construct your deck so you're benefiting more, and it's not legendary, so you can give it to an opponent. But when it comes into play, sacrifice it unless red was spent to cast it. So if we are giving it to our opponents, it's always going to sacrifice because we've not spent any red mana to put it on the field. And then it's going to go straight into our graveyard, and then we can reanimate something else or something like that. Great card to get into a loop with and can return lots of nice little creatures to the field. Then Fellstinger, exploit, such a good mechanic. 3 mana, 3/2 with Death Touch, Zombie Scorpion. Exploit, so when it comes in, sacrifice a creature. you know, say to your friend, please sacrifice this. Please don't let it go to exile. And when it exploits a creature, target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. So if we're exploiting this ourselves, we can give it to a friend. We can say, hey, look what I'm doing for you. Please, please, please. God, don't kill me. Please, please. I mean, they probably will, but this is a good card. I mean, 3 mana, draw 2, lose 2 life. It's not that bad anyway, and fills up the graveyard with a creature that maybe we can use later. Wonderful card. Really, really cool. So there's some nice self-sacrifice sort of guys, you know, some nice friends for us. Which brings me on to number 3. And at number 3, we've got Furystoke Giant. Not a card maybe you'd think of in this deck, but I love the persist mechanic with this commander. So, 5 mana for a 3/3. When it comes into play, other creatures you control gain tap. This creature deals 2 damage to target creature or player until end of turn. So, we can use this on ourselves. We can just cast this and all of our little mana dorks and things like that. We can then maybe kill a creature, kill our opponent, something like that. But the cool thing is, if we give this to our opponent with, you know, our commander, when it persists, it comes back into play with a -1/-1 counter under its owner's control. Hey! So we can give this to an opponent. All their little mana dorks, they can tap, probably kill us, but we're trying to dissuade them. Go, oh, look at him over there, get him. Then we kill it with one of our other creatures that, you know, taps to kill a creature, and then we get it back under our control, yes, with a -1/-1 counter. Then all our creatures can tap, so you can really set up a nice board state and just kill one of your opponents in conjunction with a friend. So I love this card in the deck. Ooh, look at this one. Raising Snid is a 6 mana 3/3 beast. When it comes into play, return a black or red creature you control to its owner's hand. When it comes into play, each player sacrifices a land. Okay, so the reason I'd play this is because the artwork's ridiculous. Look at it, it just looks amazing. But you can give this to, say, the mono blue player, and they have no other black or red creatures, so you have to return it back to your hand. Then you can discard it, draw a card or something, then bring it back again. And just really whittle down everyone's land, you know, really manipulate the land. Is this good? No, but I think it fits the deck. Then back on the persist track, we've got Puppeteer Click. 5 mana for a 3/2 with flying. When it comes into play, put target creature card in an opponent's graveyard into play under your control. It has haste at the beginning of your end step, remove it from the game. So very, very similar sort of rules to the Beamtown Bullies. But if we give this to our opponent and then manage to kill it, we then get a creature, get wonderful enter the battlefield effects. Really, really nice to see. Just works fantastically in the theme of the deck. Then finally, in this sort of giving away sort of section, we've got Plague Reaver. 3 mana for a 6/5. He's a beast. Hey. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice each other creature you control. That's a pretty big negative. And with us returning it to our opponents, we will get to the end step, maybe. Unless they sacrifice it or we kill it. But that's a really good trade-off. So if they keep this around, they can't kill it themselves. They have to sacrifice all their board. However, they can discard 2 cards and sacrifice Plague Reaver, choose target opponent, return Plague Reaver to the battlefield under that player's control at the beginning of the next upkeep. Okay, our opponents could give it back to us, which I'm not a big fan of, but we have a lot of ways of killing our own stuff and getting it back into the graveyard. So it gives your opponents a pretty nasty choice. Do they sacrifice all their other creatures and let this go to exile, or did they sacrifice this and discard 2 cards? So it's a net negative all around, and it sacrifices itself to go back to our graveyard so we can use it again. Really, really good stuff. Nice collection there. And that takes me on to number 2. At number 2, we've got untap effects, and Emerald Charm is one that I found that I think is underutilized. It's a really, really cool spell. 1 green for an instant, choose 1. Untap target permanent. Oof, we could pay that. We could tap a forest, play this, untap that forest. Stormcat's at 1. Get your Chatterstorms ready, guys. But we can untap our commander with this because our commander's just a tap ability. So we can get 2 things onto the field in one turn, or potentially use it on 2 different people's turns. Destroy target global enchantment. That just represents just your generic enchantment. So Enchantress's Presence, stuff like that. If it's an enchantment, you can blow it up. I think it's non-aura actually now. I think that's the errata. Or target creature loses flying until end of turn. Well, they can't all be winners. But the other two modes are fantastic and a great flex slot in this deck. Then Thornback Staff is simply phenomenal. 2 mana for a Shaman equipment. Quick creature has, pay 2, tap, this creature deals 1 damage to target creature or player. And the real meat and potatoes are whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, untap this creature. So, what are we going to be doing with this? Well, we're going to put it on our commander, and then we've got tons of ways to, kill a creature. Then our commander untaps, and we can tap it again to put another creature into play. Or, with like Viscera the Dreadful, we can put this onto Viscera the Dreadful as tap to destroy a creature. Well, she's going to destroy a creature, which will untap Viscera the Dreadful, and then tap again. So it's just a massive board wipe. So this just works phenomenally well with the build of the deck. Then we've got 1000-year Elixir, a great way of just untapping and getting tap abilities straight away. Because obviously our commander has haste, but a lot of our other creatures don't. 3 mana, you may activate ability of creatures as long as though those creatures had haste. So straight away, all the tap abilities, you're dead. And pay 1, tap, untap target creature. So another brilliant way of using our commander twice. That takes me on to Curse of Bounty. 2 mana for an Aura Curse enchant player. When enchanted player is attacked, untap all non-land opponents you control. Each opponent attacking the player untaps all non-land opponents he or she controls as well. So this is just absolutely insane with the goad mechanic, because it really sort of whittles down who can be attacked, and maybe people get into a situation where they have to attack the person with a curse, and then we untap our commander and use it again. Really, really great. And the amount of tap abilities that we have in the deck also play really well into this card. Then Quirion Ranger is a 1 mana 1/1 Elf Ranger. Return a forest you control to its owner's hand. Untap target creature. Activate it only once each turn. But that means that we can just repeatedly use it on each person's turn if we're untapping our commander. Really, really great. And returning a forest isn't the end of the world. We're playing green, so we should get ahead in mana, and maybe you're playing a lot of ways to dump lands into play as well. Then there's Sarith, the Viper's Fang. 4 mana for a 3/4. Other tap creatures you control have Death Touch. Hooray! Nice combat focus mechanic there. Death Touch, incredible. Other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. So really, really nice for protecting our commander until that time that we need to use it. Because our commander has Vigilance, so we can even attack in the next turn, use the ability. And we've got Hexproof up until that time. Then you can pay 1 and untap another target creature or land you control. So, and again, great for keeping our commander in Hexproof, in response to a removal spell while he's tapped, untap him. Or we can just, untap anything we want. Really great card. And then finally, one of my favourites of all time. I love this card. Patron of the Orochi. 8 mana, 7/7. Snake Offering. So you can play this as if it was an instant by sacrificing a snake and paying the difference in mana cost. Never come up, really, I have to say. But you can tap to untap all forests and all green creatures. Play this ability only once each turn. Now, the really cool thing about this is, yes, you untap all the lands, but when this taps, it untaps all green creatures, so it untaps itself, and it'll untap our commander, which means next turn we can use it again and again and again, and just over and over again, just repeatedly use those abilities. Wonderful. So good. So a nice untap section there, which brings me on to my number 1 selection. And at number 1, we're going to be bullies. We're going to be a bit nasty, so they're nerds. And level it is most definitely one way of doing it. 5 mana for a 10/10. When it comes into play, remove your library from the game. So if we give this to our opponents, well, suddenly they're not playing the game anymore. They can't draw any more cards because there's nothing there, and they just die instantly. What? Why? Who hurt you? But this is so good and fits so well into the deck. Similarly, there's Hellcarver Demon, 6 mana for a 6/6 flying demon. Whenever it deals combat damage to the player, sacrifice all of the permanents you control and discard your hand. Exile the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast any number of non-land cards exile this way without paying their mana cost. So this could go potentially terribly wrong because our opponents, you know, they could sacrifice everything and get 6 massive beaters or something like that. But they only get that one chance. They only get that 6 things because it's going to go to exile at the end of turn. What a card. What a card. I've always wanted a way of using this card, and this deck fits perfectly. Really, really awesome. Then Inverter of Truth, a combo piece in Pioneer, or at least it used to be. I don't know. I don't follow these formats. But 4 mana for a 6/6 with Devoid, so it's no colour. Flying, and when it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from your library face down. Then shuffle all cards from your graveyard into your library. So usually in Commander, unless you're playing like a dedicated graveyard deck, you could have like 7 cards in your graveyard, maybe something like that. Well, dear God, now that is your library. You only have 7 cards before you run out of steam. And the worst thing is your opponents know exactly what you're going to be drawing. Miserable. Utterly miserable. And then Phyrexian Negator. 3 mana for a 5/5 Trampler. Whenever it is dealt damage, sacrifice that many permanents. So this is awesome because the goad mechanic forces it to attack, and then someone just blocks it with a 12/12. You have to sacrifice 12 permanents. We don't. Our opponents do. All of these cards work fantastically for giving away to our opponents. Don't, except for maybe Hellcarver Demon. I'd be willing to cast Hellcarver Demon myself. Just, roll the dice, see what happens. Don't cast any of these yourself because it'll go horribly wrong. You need to find ways to discard them or just dump them into your graveyard. And hopefully you've enjoyed my look at the Bullies. Thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe to my channel. I'm going to make tons more videos like this. And dear God, they keep printing cards, so plenty to look at. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.